Our first topic is why we need a child and youth protection policy. And you will see 4 whys there listed. First, the children and youth are gifts of God, created by God and created good. Therefore, we will set standards for prevention to protect what God has created good. So our first category will be prevention. The second, children and youth depend upon adults for safety and security. Therefore, we will practice supervision, and supervision will be our second topic. Children and youth hope for a world where they can find a safe place. Therefore, we will respond quickly and faithfully to any violation that may cause harm to a child or youth. So violation is the third. And the fourth is oversight. Children and youth need adults to take seriously the baptismal vow of nurture and care. Therefore, we will demand oversight from our leaders called to carry out our promises to God.
The first step in prevention is screening. All employees, elders, and deacons, and those volunteering with children and youth will be asked to go through a background check. All background checks will be secure for 5 years. If you're thinking, have I already had a background check? We're doing them all over again. So everyone here and participating in this training will go through a background check. New prospects. New prospects or members shall not provide leadership within the first 6 months of their participation. UKirk is a little bit different. If college students are participating in the college ministry, they are invited because they serve with the youth, especially on Sundays and Wednesday nights. So that is an exception to approved by session, as well as if someone has been a member here, moved away, comes back, and are faithful church attendees, you will also go before session. So please know that all teachers, small group leaders, youth advisors, as well as curriculum goes before session. So know that new prospects in a typical situation will be 6 months worship and activity attendance. There are some exceptions to be approved by session. Minimum age, persons under the age of 18 shall not provide leadership of other persons under the age of 18 without the adult supervision of 2 adults present in the room. Permission forms, youth forms. There are youth covenant forms that are to be filled out every year by all parents and youth. That is signed for a year. It's good to go. It's for discipline guidelines, discipline meaning to teach, so teaching our young people how to live in a covenant community. Parents and guardians are also asked to complete a parental consent and release form, hold harmless form. In addition to the forms we've had in the past, we have added photo release and social media release to those youth forms. Children participating in logos in the registration process will complete all of this at registration. It'll go on file at the church, and that includes photos as well. All right, parental responsibility. Parents, we are responsible for the direct supervision of our children when they are in the church building unless they are participating in an event like Sunday school. Once you drop them off at Sunday school, it's under their supervision. But when they're running around, like my child was this morning, that she is my responsibility. So if you have children in the church, you are in supervision of them unless they are in a directly church-sponsored event. Media, our worship services are online. We do have a thriving TV ministry, so permission to use the images and children are found in the hold harmless forms for youth and logos registration for children. And this gives us permission to post our worship services as well as pictures on our private social media pages. We will now go to supervision.
First, under supervision is an open door policy. Any one-on-one consultation with a child or youth shall take place in a room with an open door, in view of an accessible window, or with video surveillance. Adult supervision. There shall be at least 2 non-related adults present at any activity involving children or youth. If children or youth are participating in a small group with one adult leader, The rule of 3 should be observed at all times, and the door should be open at all times. In an emergency situation, an adult supervisor will make unannounced frequent visits when 2 adults are not available. Adult supervising youth should be at least 21 years old. The youth committee or staff must approve any youth helpers who have not been out of school for at least 4 years, or out of youth for at least 4 years. For overnight activities, there shall be at least 2 adults present for each gender represented for an overnight activity. If there is only 1 child or youth of a gender present, a parent, that child's parent, can count as supervision for his or her child. Transportation. Anyone who will regularly use or drive vehicles owned by the church must submit a copy of their driver's license to the church office. That information will be provided to our insurance company, who will notify us if there is any problem. Adults transporting children or youth in their own vehicles must have a valid driver's license and proof of insurance with them. You may not drive for church events if you have a DUI on your driving record. You must be at least 25 years old to drive the church bus and 21 years old to drive a personal vehicle carrying unrelated youth or children during church events. No youth may drive any other youth unless they are related. Seat belts must be worn at all times, and children and youth may not engage in any behaviors that will distract the driver. Event protocols. Youth should sign in upon arrival for youth events, and visitors must provide the name and emergency contact number for parents or guardians. Parents should sign in children birth to age 5. On Sundays, parents should accompany elementary children to their classroom and pick them up when class is over. Elementary children may sign themselves in. Children arriving for Logos will be checked in by Logos volunteers. This is our always category. Adults supervising children and youth should always treat each child or youth as a child of God. Respect a child or youth's personal space. Some children or youth prefer high fives to hugs, or prefer not to have others in their personal space at all. An adult should always respect that no means no regarding a child or youth's personal space, unless the safety of the child or youth is at stake. Always hug a child or youth over the age of 5 from the side, unless a frontal hug is initiated by the child or youth. Always listen attentively and speak respectfully with children or youth. Always report activity that seems inappropriate to the supervising staff or an elder or deacon of the early childhood, Christian education, or youth committees. Always report an activity that constitute abuse or neglect to DHR. Details on mandatory reporting are included in the full policy. You are all now mandatory reporters by the state of Alabama. Adults supervising children and youth should never be alone with a child or youth. If you need to have a private conversation with a child or youth, it should always take place in sight of others. Never touch a child or youth inappropriately. Examples of inappropriate touching include, but are not limited to, arm tickles, touching a child in anger, disgust, or frustration, kissing, wrestling, or piggyback rides, touching private parts, massages, or back rubs. While we recognize that children birth to 5 will need diaper changes and times associated with toileting, there should always be another adult nearby. Children birth to age 5 may be comforted by frontal hugs or lap sitting, but these behaviors are inappropriate for elementary children unless initiated by the child. Never talk, text, or message on your phone while supervising children or youth, unless it's an emergency situation and you are seeking assistance. Never talk to a child or youth inappropriately. Inappropriate talk includes, but is not limited to, compliments or questions relating to physique or body development, sexual jokes, homosexual innuendos, bathroom humor, swearing or vulgar language, verbal harassment or abuse, individual secrets or special gifts, etc. Never consume or be under the influence of alcohol or any substance which may cause impairment while supervising children or youth. Never allow youth or children to consume alcohol or other prohibited substances. Never use tobacco or any form including vapor or e-cigarettes in the presence of a child or youth. Each adult supervising children or youth shall be given a copy of the Child and Youth Protection Policy. The policy will be readily available on site. Training for adults supervising children and youth will be provided annually, and adults will be required to complete training prior to supervising children or youth. A training video will be provided for anyone unable to attend the annual training meeting. Documentation of completed training will be recorded in the Church Information Management System.
Violation. Reporting and investigation. Any allegation of inappropriate behavior shall be reported immediately to the nearest supervising adult and or member of the pastoral or program staff. The person receiving the report shall record the report in writing and initiate an investigation. The person suspected of the violation may be removed immediately from further contact with children and youth until the completion of a full investigation. In the case of any suspicion of abuse or neglect, the mandatory reporting procedures must be followed. Additional reports shall be made to the appropriate authorities in accordance with the laws of the state of Alabama and our denominational policy. If a violation is reported about a pastor, a report shall be made to another pastor and to the appropriate presbytery authority. All reports of inappropriate behavior will be investigated by the pastoral staff and or the Child and Youth Protection Task Force. Consequences. The Child Youth Protection Child Force and the pastoral staff will work together to determine appropriate consequences, which could include barring the individual from all church activities. Oversight. Implementation. The oversight of the safety of our children is ultimately the responsibility of the session, the employees, and all members of the church. However, the specific implementation of the guidelines shall be handled by the Early Childhood Committee, birth to age 5, Christian Education Committee, kindergarten to grade 5, and the Youth Committee, grades 6 to 12. They shall be responsible for ensuring that all persons are screened prior to volunteering in leadership and appropriately trained on child and youth protection policies. Confidentiality. With oversight, all reports and background information shall remain confidential to those who have received the reports and the pastoral staff. Reports of proven incidents shall remain in a confidential locked file along with your background checks. The Child and Youth Protection Task Force. This task force will be called into service as needed due to the report of a violation at the request of the pastoral staff or at the request of the session. The Child Youth Protection Child Force will consist of elders serving on the Christian Education Committee, the Youth Committee, and the Early Child Care Committee, a member of the pastoral staff, and the Director of Christian Education. At least one person from each committee must be present for the Child Youth Protection Task Force to take action. This policy shall be reviewed and updated as needed, but at least once every 5 years by a task force to be appointed by and have representatives from those committees. That concludes our PowerPoint and presentation.